Hey gang, Ronin here. As you can see in this game, I'm playing the Tier 10 US Destroyer Gearing. Nothing unusual about that. I play this ship quite a lot. This game had some interesting things in it that I wanted to be able to highlight. The game itself was kind of interesting. Uh, I fairly early on found myself with an Ohio on this flank kind of alone. Putin he took up a position that was a lot more center. And, if you take a look at the opposing lineup, you've got two submarines, and then you Yang, Elbing, Daring, and Gearing. So literally half the team has significant torpedo threat, although you can certainly make the argument that Elbing is much more of a gunboat than a torpedo boat. It does have torpedoes, and they can certainly hit things and hurt them. On our team, of course, we got Gearing, a Sherman, a Daring, a Z-52, um, a pretty good combination of destroyers, and then a Belau and a U-2501. Note that there is a division on either team. On our team, the division is the Napoli, Belau, and the U-2501. Now, I'll get to why I kind of highlight that fact here in just a few minutes. For now, suffice it to say that I'm going to try to avoid being spotted by the aircraft if at all possible. You can see the Goonloos moving that way toward the center now. Ohio's out here. And it occurs to me that if Ohio keeps pushing forward, he is probably going to be in big trouble. We've got Slav out there, Des Moines out there. I'm sure at least one destroyer, probably two, and then maybe a sub as well. Our Shikishima blaps the Stalingrad. You certainly do not want to show broadside in a Russian cruiser of any kind. I think somebody makes a comment to that effect here in a minute in the chat box. Pretty early in the game, less than 2 minutes in, and Stalingrad is gone. And you can see on the minimap there, he was at Gulf 3, and he was sitting broadside to the Shikishima, which is just a really bad place to be. Now, why did I throw the torpedoes out there? Well, because sometimes you get lucky. I don't want to go into the cap, at least not right now, because the enemy CV has made it clear that this side is going to, receive a lot of attention. And right about now, I'm realizing, okay, Ohio, he's out here alone as far as all the bad guys are concerned. So you can see my comment there, Ohio, start kiting away, only you and me here. And, to his credit, he kind of reads the mini-map and says, yeah, okay, maybe that's a good idea. Now you can see the Z-52 is kind of pushing out this way, and I decide I'm angled reasonably well. I'm going to go ahead and slow down, hit the smoke, and I'm going to see if I can't shoot down some of these aircraft, try and help save some wear and tear on the Ohio. And I'll just keep drifting forward. You can see slowing down saved me getting hit by whatever put shells in the air, probably the Des Moines back there. And I don't want to sit here in this smoke. Here come the torpedoes. Now that's one torpedo, which suggests the likelihood of a sub. You can see Z-52 has moved into the cap, but something else is in there with him or it would be turning, right? Our Sherman and Daring, I'm just trying to avoid getting hit with a torpedo here. This is a very near thing. And there's the Daring. See if I can't get a little damage on the Daring as Z-52 squares off with him. And Des Moines, presumably radared, and just absolutely thrashed the Z-52. So now it really is just the two of us over here, myself and the Ohio, and you can see the Ohio is now behind the island, which, okay, I can understand that. He took a lot of damage. Take a look at his HP there on the block on the left-hand side. You can see Ohio. He's healing right now, but he's got about a third of his HP left. He got beat up pretty bad. And CV was, paying a lot of attention to this side. So it's just me. I know that there are two destroyers out there, Daring and Elbing. I have no idea where they are, but I do know that the radio locations indicator is telling me there's something over there. Now, I'm going to sit here and wait on the off chance that one of these destroyers pushes up this way. Yeah, I'm trying to tell the Ohio that's where you need to be aware. And I do catch the Des Moines with two torpedoes, which was, of course, that was my wildest dream. was to catch him out there, which is why I threw those there. But I'm just using the radio location indicator. I'm hoping that a destroyer is going to be pushing straight this way in an attempt to get torpedoes on the Ohio. As far as I know, we're still being chased by 2 destroyers, one of which is kind of an AP monster. That's the Elbing. And so now I know that he's falling back. So what's close here? Well, is it the Elbing or is the Daring kind of in the same line? I don't really know yet. You can see we've lost a ship. The bad guys have lost 2. Still anybody's game. We've got a little bit of a points lead, but the bad guys have a cap advantage. And I do land a torpedo, so it tells me that the Daring is out there. I'm going to stop this for just a second. You can see on the minimap where the Elbing was last located, right? And you know where I just landed a torpedo was right kind of where I'm aiming. So I caught the Daring there. So he doesn't have much in the way of HP. Now, I have to hope that that's the Daring. I suppose it's possible that it's a sub, but it seems really unlikely that the sub would run all the way outside like that. So at this point, I'm thinking if Daring is still there, although he's got the opportunity to remedy that if he's given enough time, he's probably kind of low on HP. So maybe this is an opportunity for me to get into a gun battle with the Daring. Always dangerous, but I'm still at full health, so we'll just keep moving forward. But I want to point out that if you were, let's just say you were the 2 submarine players divisioned on our team. If you were those 2 players, you are now sitting in the Charlie cap, facing off against a Gearing, right? And if you just glanced at the minimap, what would it look like? And I'll get to why I'm pointing that out here in just a minute. If you were just looking at the minimap with regards to just myself and the Ohio, what might you think? So let's get this moving again. Napoli takes out the enemy Gearing. Bad guys are now down 3 ships. Good guys are still only down the Z-52 that I think probably got radared and blapped by their Des Moines. Now what am I doing here? I'm backing up because if there were torpedoes coming, I wanted to be able to spot them for Ohio. Now, that doesn't mean I want to get hit by torpedoes myself, but I want to do what I can to try to help them. Okay, so I know that he's moved farther north, so I'll just throw him out there and hope that he's going to continue moving north, maybe thinking he's going to go around the island. We'll see. But now, and here come the torpedoes. Now, whose were those? Anybody's guess, but it seems like most likely those are Daring torpedoes. It's roughly 10 kilometers away from where he was last seen. Our Balao takes out their Des Moines, and their Colombo takes out the Balao. We're down 3 ships, bad guys are down 4. Now again, if you were the 2 sub players on my team, and you just glanced at the minimap, what might you think about where I'm positioned and where the Ohio is positioned? Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, if it were me and I was in the thick of it and I was trying to cap the Charlie cap, and I was getting support from the Sherman, and we had Daring out there trying to push the Yu Yang out wide to keep his guns off me. We had a Colombo pushing straight at me. I might be a little frustrated seeing an Ohio and a Gearing sitting back almost in spawn, seemingly doing nothing. Now, you know that I'm not doing nothing. You know that I'm trying to spot torpedoes for the Ohio, and you can see he's come this way, and I've changed direction so that, again, I'm between him and where I think the destroyer's at, trying to spot torpedoes. But I'm sure it probably looks like we're just goofing off back here. So let's just keep moving forward. I promise there's a point to all of that. and I will get to it.
Torpedoes, direct front.
Now you can see I said I'll try to spot the Daring, and I catch the Daring. You can see right there, just pretty much where I'm aiming, just to the left. You can see there's a gap between those. There's 3 torpedoes left. I caught him with one. So now I know the Daring's gone, and I can head straight for the Delta Cap. Because I know Albion was last seen way down there. There he is now. He's at the Charlie Cap. I don't have to protect the Ohio anymore, unless it's against aircraft. And you can see our Below says y'all should be pushing D. And you'll see my response. And I said we are, and he says their whole team is on the HI and J lines, which is true. Which takes me back to what might it have seemed like to him. Now, I certainly haven't been lighting up the scoreboard or anything. I've shot down 4 aircraft, landed 1 shell, 5 torpedo hits, 5 floods on those torpedo hits, got an incapacitation, and managed to sink the Daring. And are sitting at 50,400 damage. So it's not like I haven't been active in the game. And our Ohio got banged up really bad, really early. And did I have to? No, but I decided early I got to try and keep our Ohio in the game. So that's kind of what was going on. But it goes back to what did that look like on the minimap to these other players? And you're going to see that E1 Apex and one of his division mates were very hot under the collar with me. And I have to say, I was a little hot under the collar with them, as you can see there. Now, why do I bring all this up? Well, I'll tell you. I bring all this up because I think this is something that we all fall prey to. And for the record, despite the comments that are thrown back and forth here in the game, I don't have anything against any of these players at all. Because when this game was over, the first thing that I thought of was, there but for the grace of God go I. And by that, I mean, I know myself that countless times when playing this game, I have looked at the minimap and thought, oh, based on what I'm seeing here, these guys are they're just screwing off. They're not playing the game. They're not focused. When in reality, the map that I can see on the minimap is just a tiny fraction of what that they're looking at and what they're dealing with. So was I irritated while the game was happening at the comments? Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that in my responses. But for the record, I do not hold anything that these other players said against them, because I've been there and I have felt exactly the same way. And I've made very similar comments to people about, hey, get your ass in the game. And what's the point? Well, the point that I'm trying to make is, although we're all going to get aggravated, especially because we've all been on teams where no matter what you do, nothing goes right. We've all been on those teams that are just loaded with 40 and 35 and 38% players who, don't use signals, they don't use camo, and really they're just in it because it looks pretty while they, finish eating their TV dinner or whatever. We've all had those days. And for all I know, this division was having one of those days. And the idea that from their perspective, I was sitting back there doing nothing along with Ohio, of course they'd be irritated. And you can see it reflected in his comments, which I have to admit are kind of funny. Didn't seem funny at the time, but kudos to him. They actually were pretty funny. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, in this game just completely turned into a rout. It's very easy, and I'm guilty of it myself on pretty much a daily basis at this point, to become very jaded and cynical and just be angry at other players. But is it justified? Well, maybe sometimes it is, but probably a lot of times it isn't. And I was in the middle of typing, or I would have had my AA going on these torpedo bombers that were coming in. You can see as soon as I got done with that, I realized, oh man, he's under attack. I got to try and get my AA going. A little too late though, because he eats 2 torpedoes there, and sadly I think he repaired, and Ohio ends up getting sunk despite my best efforts. So if any of these 3 players in this division, or anybody else that was in this game for that matter, who saw my comments sees this, please know that I have no problem with any of these three players. I'd gladly team up with them again, despite the comments that were hurled back and forth, and they were they were pretty. I mean, part of what I think happened here, and you see my comment there. I assumed that these were bad players. Yeah, I admit it. Because very often when I see these kind of comments, the game's over and somebody's got a 35 or 45% win rate. When in fact, for the record, these are all very good players. In fact, one of them, it might be the one that just said, go check scrub, is like a 60% player. Now, somebody's going to go look and they're going to say, oh, he plays, Belfast, a lot of, yeah, okay, maybe he does, but he also plays a lot of other ships, and a lot of them tech tree. And in fact, the ship that I think he played the most, and I researched it because I wanted to make sure I said this, is the Yamato, which is not an easy ship to play well, and he does. So this is a very good player. He just got hot under the collar, and because I've been there myself, I'm just saying, if uh, Luftwaffe, if you ever see this video, which I realize is probably doubtful, I really hope you'll accept my humble apologies, and I hope that we can shake hands and be friends and enjoy the game together. Because despite how things got in our chat comments there, I have been right where you were. And in fact, I went there in this game, in the chat. It's easy to do, especially if you've played the game for any time. And in my opinion, especially if you've played the game for any time and you've been trying to learn the game and play it well in an environment where it seems as though a lot of times wargaming may be just not caring at all about whether you try to learn the game in their rush to get out more premiums and more lines so that they can sell more premiums. Now, the red team had to be a little irritated that the Blau was just sitting there, but at the same time, that's probably what it looked like I was doing. Now, if you enjoy snide comments, keep watching the chat box. You're going to see some more. Now, I know where the CV's at, right? I've been seeing where the aircraft's coming from. So I'm going to risk pushing straight at this submarine. And this game's all over. Now, a actual gameplay note. Do I go to the right side of this island or do I go to the left? So I go to the left side. Why? Because if we look at the mini-map, the positioning of the CV suggests that he's going to run forward rather than try and reverse. Because if he reverses, he's got a Shikishima behind him. So you can see where the Balau's at. I expect torpedoes to be coming. Yeah, I'm going to eat a little bit of damage. You're going to see some comments about that. And now I'm just positioning to be able to avoid these torpedoes. It's a good torpedo drop. And I know he's coming back. He's going to try and hit me again, but I've still got my repair. I'm just going to slow down here just a bit when the turn. And now I can just accelerate toward the Audacious. Now, yes, I'm going to blap this Audacious. But I actually had a good game despite that. Regardless of the comments, regardless of what it seemed like I was doing based on the mini-map, I ended up with, 2,600 and some odd base XP in this game. I shot down some aircraft, I spotted some torpedoes. I was busy, and I helped cap the Delta Cap. Landed torpedo. The torpedo on the torpedoes on the Des Moines were absolutely delicious. I think pretty much any player that loves playing destroyers in particular would find that very entertaining. Now, why do I say that? Because I feel like, though I certainly don't consider myself one of the best players in the game or anything anywhere near that, I am above average in terms of how to play this game. And I got caught up in an argument in the chat box rather than focusing on the game. And the really sad thing is the people that I was arguing with probably enjoy and have studied this game as much as I do and have, if not more. And why are we arguing and fighting with one another? We've got this game in the bag, and all of us are good players. It goes back to perception. And it goes back to a lesson that I learn and relearn constantly. Um, and that is, try not to judge based on what you're seeing on the mini map, because you don't always know. You don't always know what is going on. Now, having said that, I'm not judging these players that were making comments. Again, I have done exactly the same thing and worse on occasion. So I'm not saying any of this to be critical of them, because I am certainly guilty of having done the same thing more than my share. So I just will say one more time that despite all of everything that was said here in the chat, I have no ill will toward any of these players in this division. I hope that the next time we encounter one another, it can be friendly. I hope they'll forgive me any of the comments that I made in this. And those of you watching, I hope you will forgive me for the comments that I've made, because I know they were very unpleasant. But I thought that this might serve as a good lesson to, well, any of us seeing this, to try and give the benefit of the doubt to the other guys. In this case, I could have used the benefit of the doubt, but again, I have many times done exactly the same thing these guys were doing based on what I was seeing in the mini-map. And from their perspective, it seemed perfectly legitimate, and they were probably, like I was thinking about them, were thinking that I was a 40% player. And that they were perfectly justified in assuming the worst about what I was doing. Thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I hope this didn't sound too preachy, and I'll see you next time.